Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today in this flower bed as we redesign and reconfigure a shade garden. So let's go. We're on the east side of my house. Behind me here is a big hosta bed that we worked on in previous videos. It is an extremely shady part of my yard. And as we head north in my garden, I have created flower beds, basically where the lawn ends and where the woods begin. But honestly, I don't love these flower beds for many reasons. Number one, towards the front of the flower beds, there are a bunch of perennials as well as weeds that I want to move around. Some of them are shade-loving plants. Some of them prefer sun. Also, there are trees and shrubs in here that also need a lot more sun than they are getting in this flower bed. What I'm planning to do is take you along as I work on this flower bed and step by step just show you what I'm doing in here. I like to set realistic goals when I work in my garden. So for today, my goal is to work on this section of the bed from this tree here to a tree right over here, which is about 20 feet long by about 4 feet deep. My goal for today is to do some weeding, to move around perennials. Either they're going to stay in this bed, but in a different location in this bed, or they're coming out of this bed. And then also I want to set up a space towards the front, center, and back of the bed where irrigation is going to go. There are a ton of beautiful plants in here. And some of them do like shades and are happy here. Things like Lungwort, there's Heuchera. There are some Hosta in here. But there are definitely plants that like more sun, like a lilac tree and Stella D'Oro daylilies. The goal to start with is weeding where the lawn ends and up to the first irrigation line, which is right over here. Now, I put in this irrigation line a few years ago, and it's pretty much just been hooked up to the water hose. I will be redoing the irrigation in this bed, so that will end up getting lifted. The pattern repeats towards the front of the bed. We have some Dianthus that's a white color, which is going to get pulled out. There are some Columbine, and then there are some Pulmonaria or Lungwort. There are also some Heuchera, and the same exact plants are just repeating towards the front of this bed. When I weed, I like to have a little bit of strategy. I have one wheelbarrow here where I'm putting a bunch of sticks, and I'll just burn that in my brush pile. And then over here, this wheelbarrow is just full of weeds, and I have a big pile of compost. It's just going to get thrown on that pile. And then I have a bucket down there, and that is just more sticks, but also there's a bunch of rocks in there. And I have an area where I collect rocks. I just try to keep it somewhat organized as I'm moving along. And to make it a little easier when I'm weeding, I just have buckets that I use, 5-gallon buckets, and I'm just putting a lot of the debris in here. Now I want to show you what the bed looks like in terms of the progress that's been made. What a difference a little weeding does. So you can see that there are a bunch of perennials towards the front of the bed, the center, and towards the back. But then there are those big tree shrub type structures. That's the next thing that I'm going to do is do a little digging when it comes to the shrubs and trees here in this bed. This lilac tree has been here for a number of years, and although it has stayed alive, it has never blossomed. Lilac trees need a lot of sun. They pretty much need 6 to 8 hours of sun. I obviously didn't think about that when I planted it here. I'm going to have Mr. Budget Gardener. He's going to help me dig out this tree, and we're going to move it to a sunnier location in my yard. Over here is a rhododendron, and it is an Olga, and the variety is Mezzet. I'll put the name of the variety on the screen for you. This has buds on it. It has bloomed. I just don't like it in the middle of this bed. It's gotten too big, so it's just going to get pushed back towards the back of this bed. And over here is a King's Gold Cypress. And it's pretty, but also I don't want it in the center of this bed. Also, I'm pretty sure it's supposed to have a much more golden hue to the foliage on this plant. So I looked it up, and also it needs more sun than what it's getting here. So I will also be moving this out towards the west side of my house, the same area where the lilac tree is going to go. So we removed one shrub from here. One has been removed from here. And then one has been removed from here. What a difference. It just opens up this area. I'm very excited. It gives opportunity. What I want to do now is show you where things got moved to. Okay. So I'm at the back of this bed here, and these are all wood chips that we've put down just to kind of keep the weedy part of the forest controlled. So we planted the rhododendron over here. I don't know the name of this tree or shrub. It was planted a few years ago, but that's there. There's a type of honeysuckle over here. This I got from my mother-in-law's house. It's not the most optimal place, but for right now, we're going to keep it here. This is a Cusa dogwood. Over here is a forsythia. The forsythia was at the corner of this bed, so we went ahead and just moved it. And then over here is a type of spirea. So there are some beautiful trees and shrubs that are towards the back of this bed, which is very exciting. Right behind this honeysuckle over here is a big pine tree. And the plan is sometime in the fall, we're going to be removing this pine tree just to kind of open up this area. It might even let in a tiny bit of light. Let me go ahead and show you where the lilac tree got moved to, as well as the cypress. So we're on the west side of my house. Over here were two lilacs, and they're a white color blossom. What I did was I added this third one. This third one was originally over here. So I wanted to group all three of those together because I know they're all white. I don't know the color of this one. This is the one that was over in the shade garden. So that got planted over here. And then as we move this way, this is where the cypress got planted. So it's about noontime right now, and you can see there's definitely more sun over in this area than there is in that shade bed where we've been working all day. Just like anything, it's time will tell how these plants end up doing. And it might take them a year or two to reestablish, but I have to imagine they're going to be happier here than they were in the shade bed. The next thing I want to tackle in this bed is removing plants that I don't want in this bed anymore. The two main plants that I can think of are the Stella D'Oro daylily, as well as some bearded iris that I have in here. Both of those plants prefer full sun. And this area, even though it's getting a little bit of sun, is generally a pretty shady bed. So I'm going to go ahead and get both of those plants removed, not only from this section here, but going all the way down into the rest of this area. I'm going to go ahead and start digging this daylily. Okay, that was pretty easy. Now I'm going to go ahead and dig out some of the iris. Part of gardening is learning from our mistakes, and it's okay. This is how we learn as gardeners. So iris like to be in more of a sunny location. And not only that, you definitely don't want to have them planted too deep. And a lot of these iris were definitely planted too deep. They're not going to bloom if you don't give them enough sun and if you plant them too deep. That's fine. So I'm going to go ahead and dig the rest of these out, as well as the daylilies. I'll show you what the bed looks like after I'm done. From the back of the bed, the iris as well as the Stella D'Oro daylilies got removed, and I plan on potting those up. And then from the front of the bed, I had some white Dianthus, and I've gone ahead and dug all those up as well. This is definitely a full day project, and I couldn't have done it without Mr. Budget Gardener. So I just wanted to give you an update on where things are at with this project. Right in the back here I transplanted a whole bunch of the Columbine, so I just put them towards the back of the bed. Also, there are some peonies here, and even though this is a fairly shady bed, I have to admit that this peony right here did bloom in the spring. So I'm taking a chance. I divided it and I moved it along the back part of this bed. And then we'll see next year if they bloom or not. Now, sometimes when you do divide peonies, they don't bloom the year after. So I'll give it a few years before I decide if they're going to stay here or not. So when it comes to the hosta, there were groupings, one group here, another grouping over here. And what I did was I just dug them up and grouped them a little bit closer to each other. And then there was a lighter colored hosta right here, and that were towards the front of the bed. I just moved them back, and I think it will be a nice contrast with having the darker leaves with the lighter color of this hosta. So I moved those around, and then we have this nice clump of Heuchera. I had them all throughout this bed. So I dug them up and I put them in nice groupings in between each clump of the hostas. So there is a little bit of a pattern going on in here, but I'm trying to make it so it's a little easier to come in here, to weed, to see the flowers so that they stand out. I wanted to point out, we just put markers, temporary markers, where we plan on putting the drip irrigation. So we're going to have one line going here, one line going there, and one line towards the front. The very front row, again, will be annuals for next year, so I still need to move some more perennials from the front area towards the center here. So this project is close to complete, but not done yet. So I'm going to keep on moving the perennials around, and then I'll show you in the end how everything looks. And this project is done for phase one. The whole front row is now empty, so that's ready for irrigation, and then some beautiful shade annuals for next year. The center row is packed. We have Pulmonaria, there is Foamflower, and Astilbe. Lots of things that I found in this bed that I was able to divide. Some coral bells, Lungwort, and then in the back row we have some Hosta, and there are also some coral bells back there. And then in the very back row are the Columbine and peonies. This bed is jam-packed with lots of fun stuff that I actually just used from flowers that I found scattered throughout this bed. This is a great time of year to be dividing your perennials, to be moving them around, and it gives you something to look forward to for next year. So I'm hoping that this video really inspired you to get out in your flower beds and do something different, something new. I am having so much fun getting these beds cleaned up, and I'm going to keep working on the flower beds heading in that direction, which is towards the north side of my yard. Until the next video, make it a great day with gardening.